Hello and welcome, I'm Tavaragadamu. What does it take for a writer to keep penning books? My guest today, Alemayehu Mamo, once a sailor and a journalist, relates that ability to some kind of commitment. And in just under 21 years, he has published 29 books. Very well, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
So it's been something like 21 years since you left Ethiopia and started basically living in the United States.
It's been 21 years. It's running like 21 months.
I know. And in 21 years, you were able to write and publish, I guess, 29 books. Is that correct?
That's correct, 100% correct.
How did you manage to write all these books?
Well, it's a kind of a habit, you know. I have this dedication of writing at least one page a day, which will easily come to a 365-page book per year. So sometimes I don't even meet that deadline, but I made it that way. And whenever I have time, whether it's a tea break or I have some kind of vacation, unless I have a family commitment or something to do, the next thing near and dear to my heart is writing or reading, one of those. So I think because of that discipline, I was able to achieve this result, you know.
It's quite a mix, is it not?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And for that, I have to credit my background as a print media journalist with Ethiopian Press Agency, and particularly the daily Addis Zaman newspaper. I've been there for 3.5 years. And I think that vast experience is the role for, it contributed to my many kinds of writing genres, because as you may know, the newspaper has a news page, news feature, sports, live, different kinds of interviews, which can be interpreted as either biography or autobiography, and so on. So that experience really helped me to experience different kind of writings. So when I add my spiritual understanding of the Bible to that, I have that vast experience of writing. So I can say there is no genre which I didn't try yet. So
it's interesting, but before all that, you were a seaman, right? You were a sailor.
I've been a seaman. That's another experience of life. I joined the former Ethiopian Navy when I was only 17. So that's where I get matured and transitioned into the youth and then, adulthood. I served 7 years continuously. So I started from the recruit part, then seaman recruit, and then ordinary seaman, and then able seaman. And I live as a rank of leading seaman. So
when you left?
When I left, I was a leading seaman, but I left with my reading experience.
So you at least have at least 2 books dedicated to that experience, correct?
Yes, sir. That's one. One is my autobiography, and also a few of them, which is a collection of short biographies of the former Ethiopian Navy members. So I dedicated 2 books to that institution, and you are correct.
So how does that inform your writing?
Well, one thing I know is that if you don't read, you can't write. This is what I tell my young followers and those who are mentored by me. I always tell them, read, at least for the sake of not repeating something which already been written, at least. So we were reading there. It was a reading community in the Navy, especially where we were assigned on the ships and we are sailing on the sea. Unless we are on duty, we have nothing to do but reading. So if a book arrived at the ship by any chance, I can assure you that at the end of the day, it will shrink into pieces and throw into the sea because of the circulation. Some people take a turn twice to read it.
Right.
And then at our tea break and other times, we critique. We didn't know that it will contribute to my future at that time, but we make a circle and discuss that book. It was very helpful too.
How far and why did you travel as a seaman?
Maybe 1,000 kilometers from Ras Kassar to Ras Dumera. That's the longest distance I covered. It's a 3-day and night travel, I think.
But not to the
3
other
days.
parts of the world, to other countries in the world, no.
Some parts, international water lines, and also I think once we traveled to Yemen, Arab Republic, but we were just anchoring on the sea, and some other officials left by the boat to do the official job with the Yemeni government. But mostly I spent my time in inland territories and on our sea.
So when you were here, I understand, when is it, about 2 weeks ago, did you manage to meet some of your friends from that time period?
Yes, definitely.
There are not too many. There are not too many around, I guess.
Yeah, most of them are, aged, and they may not be able to make it outside to meet for a cup of coffee or tea. But most of them, especially my peers, were present at Hagar Fikr Theater. As you may have heard, I released this book, a few of them officially, and the sale will directly go to the mutual benefit of those who trained us, and now they are homebound because of age and sickness, and they don't have that retirement payment or any medical insurance. So I wanted to help them this way. So the sale will go to them. Most importantly, it will show that Ethiopia once has a navy.
You're not the only one who wrote about that story, the Ethiopian Navy, in some way. I guess 12 or 13 years ago, a few naval officers came together and published a book on that story as well. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I got my own copy and I'm familiar with that. But why I added this to the shelf is that, first of all, when we write some kind of history, we have this pattern of just reporting what happened from day one to the last one, which I don't like most of the time. And it doesn't appeal for the new generation. It's kind of a reportage. But my approach now is telling the story through the stories of its own members, add a short biographies, because this will humanize the story and it's very attractive. Their ups and downs will be a challenge for the new generation. That's why I come on this approach. But yes, I am familiar with that book and I have my own copy.
You have published stories, your story from Addis Ababa as well.
Yeah, I have now 3 kinds of stories in different approach and books. One, the one you may be mentioning is Kabanna, the memory of my childhood. Kabanna is our neighborhood in the city of Addis Ababa. So I took that part and just wrote about our childhood in Kabanna Elementary School and Kokoba Sabah then. Also our experience about swimming in the river. So that's one part. Maybe you are mentioning that.
Exactly.
Then,
that's the Kabanna one, yes.
Yes. And then I have my own autobiography, which says The Gems of My Life. It was a 278-page book, which was released in 2015 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And then, last but not least, during the pandemic, I added some of the episodes of the books from the readers' feedbacks, and also added my 10 plus years experience in the United States of America, and I entitled it The Extended Years, and I have now a 700-page book in my hand as my own autobiography. So I have those three.
So the story of Addis Ababa is a story of change, right? In terms of its landscape, in terms of its social composition, and so on and so forth, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely, a big change. Even if you take the only village I mentioned there as Kabana, if you go there now, you don't see most of the landmarks, they are gone, and new buildings here and there. So it seems that we are showing progress in building infrastructures and tall buildings. Are we working on building people's lives? I'm not sure.
Why are you not so sure about that?
Well, I have seen a vast difference in between the lives of my neighbors and the others. You know, before the difference was not that much, but now you can see the poor is getting poorer and the rich is getting richer.
But that's not just the story of Addis Ababa, it's the story of many major cities across the African continent. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. But since we are talking about Addis Ababa in my village, I just mentioned that to you. And now, let me show you a good example of that. In front of my village, where there are 9 houses in a little yard, in front of them is now a very beautiful modern building of about ground plus 7 stories. Now, I'm not sure how long those two can be a neighbor for each other, because when you see from the big building down to our village, it's just old rugged houses. Sooner or later, one will push the other, you see. That's the problem. Now, the long-time neighbors will not be together anymore. I am so sad when I think of that, but progress is inevitable. Yes, I'm happy seeing, for example, my elementary school added another 4-story classrooms in the ground, which is also a saving method of land. Instead of just putting the classes in a single dwelling unit, when you build them up as a story, you can save places. I like that. But the story is really very mixed feeling for me.
Right. So you also wrote spiritual books, right?
Yes, sir, I do.
Tell me about that.
Well, since the demobilization of the Ethiopian Navy, I just took more time searching my Bible more often than before. I think because I got time now. As a sailor, I don't have any time, because either I am busy working on a ship or I am dancing at the shore over there or partying as a youth. But now when I get plenty of time to reflect on my life, I started turning and flipping through the pages of the Bible, and I understand the truth as much as I can. So I start sharing that truth in a book format, because you have to define it and interpret it the way you understand it. So it became one of my disciplines of writing. So among these 29, maybe 50% of them are contributed to the spiritual writing.
Including one of the books you wrote on life in America?
That I put in a general knowledge group, because now I call them either general knowledge or spiritual affairs. So life in America is telling the truth about what really life in America looks like for an immigrant like us.
It's also about a story of dislocation, right?
It is. And why I wrote it is that nobody told us. When I come here, I found out many things which are not as we heard or as we were told. They are different. So I wanted to send a message back home that anyone who is planning to come to the United States of America should know that. Know it and be ready. It's not discouraging people not from immigrating, but informing them that what is waiting for them.
So do people read your books, and how do people react to what they read? For example, this particular book, do they find that helpful?
This is a very good question, Tafarra. I like that. Yes, they react. There are people who invited me to their house as with a party, saying that thank you for writing this book, because before I came here, I read it, I keep it in my purse, and now I'm better equipped for life in America. And most people, whenever they wrote me a remark or whatever comment they have, I will keep it in my note, and then when I reprint the book, I will add it to the last pages. So many people react, whether on Facebook or sending me a messenger, messages in messengers, or sometimes calling me on WhatsApp or Telegram, Viber, or whatever you name it. They comment and they are happy about that.
So in the main, you are a self-published writer, right?
Yes, definitely. I'm a self-published writer, and that's one of the things I like about living in America, because whether you are requesting 100 books or 100,000 books, there is no problem for the publisher or the printer to accept your order and do it accordingly. But let's say if you ask 100 copies back home in Ethiopia, the printer might laugh at you and say, are you printing a book or just, a wedding invitation? You have to at least request 3,000 copies from my experience. But here you can manage little by little. You got the first box, you are able to distribute that, and then you'll order the next one. So you will never go to bankruptcy that way. I like it.
Your books are published in what? In Amharic, right?
Yes. All of them are published in Amharic, of course. But only one is in English because of two reasons. Number one, I want to reach the second generation with a voice of victory. And the book is titled 7 Life Lessons from Ethiopian Runners. So, as you know, our runners are mostly victorious throughout history. So I want to introduce them to the new generation here, which is really easily distracted and get frustrated because of some, issues. So I tell them, naturally we are winners. We don't have to give up easily. This is the stories of Ethiopian runners who came from underprivileged families, but now they are international figures. So one reason is that. And the second one is, I promised to myself that I will contribute 30 books for the Ethiopian literature, 30. That means next year, I will end up with that goal. And how about after that? I have two big plans. One is mentoring the youth so that they may write and follow my example. And number two, writing in English, because 21 years in the United States of America, and then attending 3+ colleges in the last 15 years. All this rich experience from the colleges, writing papers and essays, should be practiced into writing in English, I think. Also, is the best way to widen your audience from national to international level.
With that, I guess we have to end this conversation, and good luck in your writing adventures.
Thank you very much, sir.